Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Wolfpack Season 1, Episode Dose. So, I want to go on and state that, the second episode feels kind of just more of the same from the first. We even get, certain scenes that are just kind of, copy and paste from the first episode. And so I'm like, okay, so, is every episode just going to be this same thing then? The second episode is to also be a cool-down episode from the more, action-packed, complicated first. So, we're really just seeing here that it's okay, so where is this show really going? And also, the one thing that, of course, that I wanted was a werewolf transformation, and we probably won't get that till maybe halfway through the season. And I'm, thinking, didn't Teen Wolf, the very first episode, gave us the transformation? Now I'm waiting 2 episodes and still Bupkis. You can give me all the sharp teeth that you can just give me and all these weird, goofy hallucination crap to just stretch out an episode. That's fine. I'm really just waiting for there to be, the stereotypical, sharp claws to just pop out, or us to have, hair grow somewhere that wasn't. Because that's all the stereotypical werewolf crap that we have always expected through a number of movies and shows through the end of time. So, we have me feel like everybody is just going to be under suspicion of being the arsonist. But it only has to be teenagers, it seems. Because you have to rule in every single main character that is to be focused upon this show. Beyond the Makeout King and Luna of whoever she really is. Because Garrett can go on and tell me who they are, but, I still feel like I don't really know these characters. And I get it. It's well, yeah, you should have read the novel before you watch this show. You can understand a lot of things from the book than you could from the show. And I'm then the show is obviously not doing its job. The show should go on and explain this to me, because if they're stretching things, you might as well tell me a little bit more about certain characters. So, we come to find a character called Connor in this episode, because we again have the alpha werewolf that is to have Biter's remorse, or Biter's regret. And so he is coming after all the people that he had bitten for reasons of which that I'm very baffled and confused about, because I guess you just have to go on and naturally assume that the alpha werewolf doesn't want to go on and get dethroned or have to, share a planet with other people who are also werewolves. He wants to be numero uno. He wants to be one of a kind, even though he could have spent 18 years trying to go after his own kin, which he never did. So yeah, so also, did the alpha werewolf, because of his kids turning 18, can he now, sense them now? But he couldn't never have sensed them before. So is this Highlander, where when the person goes on and dies and then comes back to life, then it's oh, okay, they're definitely, Highlanders now. Because sometimes there's, different kinds of Highlanders in that show. It's not just oh, yeah, this person's gonna obviously live forever. There's certain times where certain ones have to die, and then they realize that they are actually Highlanders. It is what it is. For Highlander. So, speaking of Highlander, yeah, whoever was to have originally done Highlander, they left that project, and now someone else is taking it on. Why am I talking about Highlander? So, that's as excited as I am about this episode. Just more of the same. Just give me a whole entire episode where Harland is just making out with guys. because that feels like I can go on and get as much story from that as I could from anything else. So, because Harland is the make-out king, obviously. So, with that said, let's just go on and let's go into spoilers. I've probably been talked for far too much about what even happens in this episode, and there's to be a lot of just thin things about this one. So, with that said, let's go on and just double five this bad boy up, because I think it's about that time yet again to, of course, go into spoiler time. Spoiler time is about that time I'm going to spoil this episode. Like, that's how, like, just much, like, energy and things that I could just muster for this one. It's just, like, man, I had, like, so much hopes of another werewolf show, and after 2 episodes, I'm just thinking, I'm like, man, this show is on a very short leash. If it doesn't go on and give me what I want by the 4th episode, if it doesn't make me happy by the 4th episode, I think I'm going to go on and just kind of pull the ripcord and just be like, you know what, like, this was an interesting road, but, like, I need something that is to go on and have me want to come in here and want to quickly, like, get to it instead of like, oh, that again? That's out? Well, I guess I should get to that. There's other werewolf shows in the sea, if you know what I mean. So, with that said, let's go on. Let's go into spoilers. Let's do it. So, we, of course, had the 4 chosen yellow-eyed ones who are to be running off from the forest and bump into Ranger Prisha, who is with a bunch of the other rescue people, to bump into our 4 main characters, like, well, hey, why are you guys out here? And so, like, yeah. Well, like, yeah, like, we know all these people, yeah, like, we have Harland and Luna that are to keep saying that they know who Blake and Everett are. Yeah, you can know them by name, but if you don't really know them or why they're with you, then, like, keep saying that until it just becomes true, I guess, because that's what it feels like we're doing here. So, we then have all 4 of them get in a car together, and so Luna is talking to Harland again about, like, well, hey, like, Luna is to state that she does know Everett, and Harland is to state, is like, you don't really know him, like, but Luna's like, but yeah, but I feel like I know him. It's like, man, is this the dialogue of which that we just have to carry the show with? I think I know I can, I think I feel like I know this guy, even though I'm not really, to have spent, like, even a cup of coffee with him, but, like, I just feel, like, I just sense that, like, we're kinsmen or whatever. We're meant to be a thing, but maybe not together, because, oh no. So, like, is there going to be some kind of weird, like, love triangle with Everett and Luna, and then Everett and Blake? Are we going to play that, bizarrely? Because Harland is kind of batting for some other team, it seems. So, Everett ends up getting dropped off, and is to go on and tell Blake about the exercise, and it's called Lion's Breath, if she wants to go on and kind of look it up to teach this to her brother. And so Everett leaves to go on to his house, and is to have, of course, Blake's mother upset with him, to the point of even just slapping him in the face. And immediately when the dad comes into play, I'm like, yeah, Dad, you deck him too. Go on. Like, hey, like, your mom isn't the only one that slaps in this family. Like, I thought that was gonna happen. Like, I legit, like, was thinking, like, this dad better just, like, deck him one also. But no. We have the dad that is just going on and like, okay, well, like, you can tell how like upset your mother is, so like I don't have to tell you really anything. Just kind of go up in your room and so we have Blake that goes back to her hotel room, and she of course wants to take a shower, and so as she's kind of running water, like the mirror starts to fog up, and so Blake is continuing to just kind of look at her reflection or her reflection consistently because she is to realize how like better looking that she used to look from the pilot episode. So she's like, man, like I'm hot now. I'm cool hotness now. And we also, through the rest of the episode, have to go on and have people even tell Blake how hot she is. Even her relatives, for some bizarre reason. That's kind of weird. Hey, it's what happens in the show. We have Robert and Danny telling Blake how hot she is, and I just thought that was weird. So Blake is looking in the mirror, and then she all of a sudden she realizes that she has these sharp teeth, telling us that either soon she's going to be Shark Woman or a werewolf. I'm hoping for Shark Woman. I'm hoping that we're gonna get all kinds of different kind of were things. I'm hoping for like were cheetah or like where I'm hoping for chupacabra. I'm hoping for like a bunch of just supernatural things just be popping out of all these characters. Why should we have to go on and just settle for a werewolf show? Like, why not just do everything supernatural? Just put the kitchen sink into the show. Why need to just do a werewolf show? Obviously. So Blake sees her sharp teeth, she freaks out, she backs away, and then she's like, oh, the teeth are gone. So she goes in and takes a shower like everything is to be normal because they should just start to realize that they're going to have these just weird hallucination things because they're werewolves now. They still haven't figured that out yet. So Blake, and one thing that I want to state here, I feel that the person who is continuing to call all these people is just their inner werewolves trying to help them out. If it's not that, then I'm just kind of weirded out how one person can just go on and at the perfect place and perfect time know when to call these people and tell them what to do. That does not make sense to me. And so for story-wise, I'm hoping it's the inner werewolf talking to them to kind of like tell them like, hey, like I'm more experienced in this than you are, and so like I'm gonna help you out. That's what I'm hoping. So Blake, after her shower, is to see that the phone is blinking red, and so Blake kind of picks up the phone and is to press 1 to get the messages. And so in this message we go on for a very long time and have kind of dead air, and so then the person states like, you're not safe, and then that's the message. I kind of laughed at that. I was like, you're not safe. Like, what does that even mean? Like, if this person was to go on and really to have like put some knowledge into Blake, we really should have had reasonably like this inner werewolf in her say a lot more than that, but it didn't happen. So we have the Ranger Prisha, who is to further meet up with both Luna and Harlan, and so they're trying to figure out where Garrett could be because they're still looking for that guy. Because they want to come up, they want to see if there's going to be a body somewhere. They want to figure out if this guy is dead. So we have Ranger Patricia that goes on and whips out this map and is to tell both Luna and Harlan that they had gone on to find these hikers, and they had to kind of lift them out of, like, they had to like send a helicopter and kind of lift them out of where they were. And so, like, obviously they're trying to track where Garrett is, and we have Prisha that has suspicions that more than likely Garrett is going to find a place that is to be of high ground because he's Obi-Wan Kenobi, and like get all above like this fire, and it's to probably send a signal out that way. So we after Prisha leaves, we again have Luna, and we again have Harlan, who is arguing. And so they're talking about their real dad. And so, with that said, that we also go on and are to showcase that both Blake and Everett can't sleep. They're having problems sleeping, or maybe they sleep the whole entire day. Because school is closed anyways, even though bizarrely they're still studying for what reason I don't quite understand. Like, have they stated that the schools are going to reopen soon? Like, because I have a feeling, like, if the fire is still going on, shouldn't the schools still be closed for however long? So, they're studying for reasons that I don't quite understand. Anyways. So, because both Everett and Connor both study together. Anyways. So, unless this was like a 3-day weekend and then right after that previous day. So, Everett and Blake are just having so many problems sleeping that all of a sudden they're starting to imagine that one another are in one another's bed, and that they're basically like almost kissing, and they're in like a loving embrace, to the point where I'm feeling that this is going to be like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie End of Days, where we have these two characters that fall in love with one another because they have been in one another's dreams so often, or they've just been really connected, so much so. Because, of course, in the End of Days, the one girl who is supposed to be offered up to Satan, she's like, well, yeah, like, this guy has been in my dreams, like, all the time. And so, like, I don't think I can go on and not give in to him just because of how, like, this guy has been my dream guy for however long. And so, like, so we might have that situation going on, that the more that it seems that these two people are in this predicament, and that it feels that it's like undeniable that they are meant for one another. And maybe it's like for God, I don't even know why I'm bringing this up, because it's freaking Twilight, but still. We might have an imprinting thing going on. Kind of like how, God, what is his name? Not Edward, but the other guy, the werewolf guy, how he imprinted on, Jacob, is it? I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen Twilight. Let's go with Jacob, because I don't know. He goes on into imprint on Edward's quickly growing daughter, and so like he ends up realizing that they're like connected forever, and so maybe that is what like these werewolves do, is immediately once they find somebody that they like, it's their imprinted on them. I don't know. Again, just going through a lot of like werewolf crap of whatever I've learned through the time of werewolfdom. Anyways, moving on. So, we have Blake and both Everett that are to have suspicions that if you go on and you put a dresser in front of a door, that everything will be safe. Yeah, that dresser is just heavy enough to just like not have anybody coming through that door, right? You would have to go on and put like every piece of furniture in front of that door because that werewolf is probably very strong. But yeah, so I think we also at one point where Everett is to like crack open this window, and I'm like, the werewolf could just come through the window, Everett. I was like, why aren't you closing that window? But you're just kind of putting a dresser in front of a door. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. So Blake is putting a dresser in front of this door, and so uh, Danny is talking to Blake. Is like, well, like it seems that Blake is really afraid, and Blake is like, no, 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 like I'm not afraid. I just like I'm just kind of just preparing for things and so on. So yeah, so Blake is talking to Danny, and so we then have all these scenes of just kind of Garrett who is kind of running around in this on fire forest. So the first thing that he does is he is to kind of have suspicions that something is out there, and so he like takes out this flare and is to whip out this gun, and that's what we kind of see from this first scene. So Everett, who is to finally wake up, and his mother is to try to come to his room, but like his room is to have this dresser in front of the door. So it's like, hey man, like, so whenever it moves the dresser, we have Everett's mother that's like, you know what, like last night, like that was what it is. Like, let's kind of move past that. And like you also have to go on and you need to talk to the police because they're here. Like basically who Sarah Michelle Gellar's Kristen was, like she's here, and I thought she was like part of the fire department. Now I'm all of a sudden hearing that they're like the police. Make up your mind, show. Because obviously, like Kristen's character, like I think she said that she was the LAFD, so that's fire department. But I guess we also have the officer that is with her that also is a police officer, but still, either way. So we have Roberto that is to finally come back here, and he, when the door opens, is to smack into that dresser, and so he's like, like why are you guys like having the dresser like against this door? Like let's just kind of move it back, because Blake blames Danny on it. That's like, oh no, like he started to get like scared or suspicious, and so Roberto is like, oh, let's just move it back. So come to find out, Roberto is to take a call and or is to make a call to his insurance because his house is to unfortunately burn down. So Roberto is to of course be a drunk, so why would he go on and have paid attention to any kind of payments of any kind? And so I guess he was to lose house insurance on his house. So they realize more so than anything that they're probably going to lose everything in here because of a drunk dad. So even like the money to pay for a new house. So like that's going to suck. So after we have Roberto and Blake move back this dresser, we have Roberto that realizes that Blake is like, did you do something with your hair? Like, something about you just looks different. And so Danny goes on in his estate. It's like, well, hey, like her skin is different. And so Danny's like, she's beautiful now. And Roberto's like, Well, Blake was always beautiful, and then so Blake is just going to the bathroom and kind of close the door. So we had this very awkward moment. That really is really awkward. So we have Everett that goes on to talk to Kristen, and so Kristen is to like start to like a little bit like ask Everett about like the like the conversation that they had, the message that she left, whichever from the first episode. So we have Everett that is asking Kristen, it's like, well, do you really think that I'm possibly like under suspicion uh, to be this arsonist? And we have Kristen that's like, well, like I don't know, like anybody could really be under suspicion. Like obviously, we have Kristen that doesn't really have any leads right now, so she's just kind of picking random characters and just like good enough, right? So, man, my hair. We have Kristen that goes on to ask like Everett, like, well, where was he the day before? And so Everett goes on to state that he was with Blake that whole day. And so Kristen's like, okay, like I'll look into that. And so Luna and Harlan kind of get up, and so Luna, of course, asks Harlan, it's like, well, hey, like, where are you going? And we, of course, have Harlan that is to state that he's going to go out and work out. And Luna is just like, well, like, what about our dad? Like, what about Garrett? Like, we're still looking for him. And so Harlan's just like, well, hey, man, I'm just gonna go on and like our lives still have to go on here. So like, so we have Everett that is to study with Connor. And so while they're talking, they are to talk about their bites and like what happened to them. So interestingly enough, we had also Everett that was to go on and try to show off his bite to Harlan and Luna, but by that time, like the wound is completely gone. And I think we also had Blake who was to look in the mirror at her wound and notice that it was completely gone also. So we have Everett that wants to go on and look at possibly Connor's bite to see if it is to be possibly similar to his. And so Connor is like, okay, like I didn't think I'd be like experimenting this soon. I thought I would get to college and maybe experiment. And like Everett's like, it's not like that. Just take off your shirt. So Connor shows off his bite to Everett, and so Connor is convinced that it is a cougar, and so like Everett's like, okay, sure, like I'll buy that story. So Everett goes on to tell Connor, it's like, well, hey, like once you talk to the doctor, like call me and let me know like what your end result is. So we again are back to Everett, who is in the forest, just foresting it up. Only you can prevent forest fires. We're doing the Smokey Bear thing every single episode of this. So this Garrett moment is brought to you by a flashback, because we end up getting Garrett, who is to have found these two cubs, and he's talking and calling somebody about them, but then he realizes that all of a sudden, like the wolf cubs turn into babies, And so he's like, yeah. Like, I guess I'm gonna have to just go on and, like, not tell anybody about this, because no one would believe it. So, yeah, that's kind of a very weird turn of events, to be talking about these cubs, and then all of a sudden you have these babies instead. Like, maybe he'll go on and play it off that it's like, oh yeah, I just meant this instead, ha 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 ha. So, Danny is to time Blake, because Blake is to decide that she wants to run completely around this building, and Danny is going on and timing her. So, by the time that Blake is to get back to Danny, she kind of falls over, and Danny's like, "Yeah, you're not fast." And Blake is like, "Well, I get that, but I was fast the night before." Maybe it just has something to do with nighttime, because Everett is to have gone on and had that thing where like the flashback of his possibly inner wolf, I hope, where it states that the werewolf, like, during the day isn't, of course, to be as strong, but it'll still come after Everett. It'll still be looking for him. And so I'm kind of waiting for, like, how is this werewolf not going to go on and just attack them all the time to where they won't even have lives? Because how would that even be possible? How could they have school or anything when this werewolf is just going to go on and just non-stop attacking them? Because that should be a thing. So, cue now Harlan being at this gym and he's just pumping iron. Yeah, yeah. And so we all right. So pumping iron, getting swole on and whatever. And so Harlan is looking at this one guy, and the guy is looking at him. So I'm like, how is this going to end the exact same way as the other episode? And so, well, Harlan at some point, like, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but I want to just kind of get this out of the way anyways. While Harlan is just kind of bench pressing, just, yeah, ha, wah, we all of a sudden have him consistently have these fantasies about him going on and being with another guy and them making out. And so we have Harlan that doesn't know what's real, and so, like, this guy is like having, like, he's like bench pressing, and like he gets to a point where he almost kind of loses the weight. So the guy is to kind of help him and spot him, and so he's like, "Oh, hey, yeah." So, like, we don't really know if that was real or not, or just some fantasy or whatever. But it seems that that was just playing bizarrely in Harlan's head. So yeah, that'll be what that is. So we go back to Garrett, and so Garrett, it seems, is kind of be down on the ground and just like almost defeated. And so Garrett gets back up, put this kind of scarf on his face, and just continues on forward. And so now we have Connor. Connor is to go on and need to get a rabies shot because of that animal attack. So when Connor gets this shot, we have Connor that all of a sudden is in like horrible pain and starts freaking out. So we have Everett that shows up at Blake's place, and it's like, well, hey, like, considering this is a night of a full moon, or just it'll be a night that happens, like, how about we go on and just kind of be in the same place together? So we have Luna. Luna, of course, there's no Harlan here, and so Luna, of course, is to freak out, and she's, of course, doing what she did in the first episode, which is texting and calling Holland, to Harland, to tell him it's like, well, hey, like, I'm freaking out, like, what's going on, like, where are you? And so that goes on to lead now Luna to at some point be at the front of her door, and a horse comes crashing through her door, and Luna is to like kind of like have her teeth out, and then all of a sudden the horse disappears, and I'm like, again, like, these goofy hallucination things have just gotta go because they're getting ridiculous at this point. And they don't even, like, what was even the point of that? It should have been the werewolf, and it wasn't. It's a horse. Great. So, by the time that Garrett is to set off his flare and is hoping that the park rangers are going to find him, we have Garrett, who is to possibly be having his own hallucination. Was he bitten by a werewolf? We're going to find out that Garrett is going to become a werewolf now. Because he's seeing some also, like, within this smoke, he's just kind of seeing this face, and it feels like he's almost like fighting the alpha werewolf. But so the other park rangers find Garrett and they rescue him from him just being on the ground. So, like, all right, like, they put him in a, like, ambulance and kind of get him out of here. And so we come to find out when the doctor is to talk to Connor's mother, it seems that they had gone on to give Connor, like, a bunch of medication to just kind of, like, make him sleep, because they gave him, like, a sedative and all kinds of things. And so, bizarrely, instead of Connor doing what they thought that he should be doing, like, Connor is, like, wide awake, and they're like, okay, we don't know what to do with him then, because this, like, makes no sense. So, we start to have Connor, that is to get a phone call from his inner wolf, I'm hoping, still to this day, and warning him that he's in danger. So, we have Everett that is going on and playing a game, or kind of a puzzle piece thing with Danny. And so, or Danny, yeah, Danny. And so, Everett goes on and, like, says, like, well, hey, do you have another one of these? And we, of course, have Danny that says, no, like, this is my only one. So Everett's like, well, I guess I'll go on and I'll buy another one with my TV show money, right? How much you guys making? Like $1,000 a week probably on this show? Maybe more than that, maybe less, probably less. MTV, are they lowballing? What are they doing over there? I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what the difference of money that certain people get for doing a show. Maybe if it's really easy, maybe they only get like $800 a week. Anyways, so after Everett spends some time with Danny, we have Everett getting a phone call from Connor stating that he's in trouble. And so when both Danny and Blake are to be tempted to leave, we have all of a sudden them, like, stopping, and, like, Everett is just so infatuated with Blake to the point of them almost getting so close to kissing, and then Everett's like, well, I don't know why I stopped that, but it doesn't really seem like Blake was to hate that thought either. Roberto all of a sudden shows up, and they decide, like, yeah, we really need to get out of here because Roberto is back. So Connor is now running for his life, running for the forest, as we have his inner werewolf, like, guiding him. So as the werewolf, the alpha werewolf is just behind him. So Connor is to try to desperately get out of here, and so we find him consistently hobbling along because he is to have lost his crutches, as someone was to have gone on and taken that from him. So now Connor is desperately like trying to get out of here and goes in to this cage or goes into this gate, and he has a problem getting his foot out of this this part of this gate, and so Connor ends up having to re-break his leg to get his leg out of this one spot. But come to find out, by the time that this guy horribly just breaks his leg, we then have the alpha werewolf coming to kill him anyways. So I was like, wow, like, this guy had to really go on and, and break his own leg just to get killed at the end of this anyways. So, we have we have Garrett, who then shows up at the hospital being hauled into a room. And so Harlan and Luna are to get to the hospital to like check on their dad, like, oh my god, he's still alive. And so that's immediately when the police officer comes in. I think his name is Jason, and I could be wrong about that. So yeah, I was right. Good for me. We have Jason that, of course, goes on to tell Luna and Harlan that they're also under suspicion for starting that fire, and so they have to go on and question them, like whether they could have been the arsonists or not. So the next thing we see after Harlan and Luna are to be taken in, with there also probably being now Kristen still kind of looking for other suspicious people. We have Kristen that goes on to find Everett with the cast in his hands. So Kristen's like, aha. So Kristen's going to go on and have to continue questioning Everett. But since he also has had this cast in his hands, like, it makes him even more suspicious. Like, I think you're the arsonist. So that's how they go on and they kind of wrap up this episode. I am not quite sure, from what I remember, if Blake was to kind of get wrapped into that group also, but I know that Blake was to be at that hospital looking for Connor, and when both Blake and Connor were looking, or Blake and Everett were to look for Connor, we had the moment where Everett tells Blake, it's like, well, hey, like, if I find Connor, I'll call you. And Blake is like, how are you going to do that? And so Everett's like, oh, yeah, like, so we just have to keep pinning on that Blake doesn't have a phone until she'll probably get one. So Everett just says, like, well, hey, like, if I find Connor, then I'll find you. So he never probably goes on and does that, and Connor is to be dead. So what is Blake going to do? So with that said, I think I'm going to go on and just kind of wrap this one up. Let me know in the comments below how you felt about this episode. You can kind of clear up anything that I probably forgot about or misstated or whatever. Either way, I think it's about that time to say I'm going to just get out of here. If people are really loving this show and I am just not exactly for whatever reason, like, I'm still interested in it, I think I'll go on and continue to watch this show past a certain point, and then I'll probably just jump off. But hey, like, if it also seems that there is continued support for me reviewing this show, I'll keep doing it. Because yeah, like, even if it's something that I don't like, at least we can all just not like it together. Or maybe you have a vastly different opinion and you're loving this show, and like, I could still say that it's interesting. It's just like not like a show that I would just jump at to like before I would go on and see a lot of other werewolf kind of shows that I feel there's quite a bit of just some other uh, more like palpable or whatever kind of shows. So with that said, goodbye everybody. Bye everybody.